Season 1, Episode 2. A man with no identity is found on a beach. A mysterious book is found, with a code that hasn't been cracked for over 70 years. What the fuck is going on in Australia? We're diving into the nitty-gritty details of the Somerton Man on this episode of I'm Scared, but I Like It. Before we jump into this episode, this is Julianne from the future, and I have to let you know there has been some very exciting news about this case. Be sure to stick around all the way to the end of the episode where you'll get to hear us lose our goddamn minds hearing about this incredible update to this mystery and trying to figure out how this new piece of information fits into the story. This is cutting edge. This is the newest news. You don't want to miss it. But you probably do want to listen to the entire episode for context first. Enjoy the episode. See you at the end. Welcome. Welcome aboard.
Ahoy there.
Hey, it's me, Julianne.
And hey, it's me, Chloe.
We're the hosts. We're the hosts of the show. It's called I'm scared, but I like it. Yep. Okay. We should never do that again.
I thought it was good.
Oh, okay.
I thought we were in sync. No?
Yeah, it was really good.
You know what? 2 episodes in and we're more awkward than before. It just keeps getting better. It's incredible. You think we'd be better, we'd be more comfortable.
Yeah,
No.
The downward spiral never ceases, I guess.
If you also have social awkwardness, you are welcome to this podcast, and I hope you can relate and feel at home.
If you're also socially awkward, please rate us 5 stars.
You can do it. Don't be scared.
Whatever podcast thing. How was your week?
Well, this week I started reading a book from Roald Dahl, and it's called Ghost Stories, and it's a book of ghost stories that he collected over a certain amount of time that he thought were like the best of the best at the time. So I've been reading that, and it's really, really good, and it's very fun to read creepy stories from different authors from all over the place, from like all different time eras, and it's just been so fun. So yeah, check it out if you like ghost stories. Roald Dahl's Ghost Stories. None of them are written by him.
Yeah, that's intriguing. I mean, I'll definitely maybe check it out. Roald Dahl may or may not be an anti-Semite. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but it's possible that he is. So if he is, don't cancel us because I'm calling it out right now as a maybe. Is it safest to just announce everybody as maybe an anti-Semite and work from there, or?
I don't know. I watched a Drunk History episode on him just recently.
And they didn't mention it?
They didn't mention anything about him being a racist asshole.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so
good
that's
if true.
That's good, but he was a spy. You should, for the Brit from fucking England. I don't know. Please don't quote me. I don't know. This isn't my episode about Roald Dahl.
It's very interesting, though, because him being a spy sort of ties into our episode today. Not that we're going to talk about Roald Dahl, but we may talk about spies.
Oh my God.
Okay. So today, I first want to start off by saying that it's not my intention to go down true crime pathways. I'm not trying to be talking about serial killers and murders and stuff. The reason why this case is something I want to talk about is because all of the information is so fucking weird. It is so spooky and strange, and there's no resolution to this story yet. I want to introduce to you the Somerton Man.
Who dat?
We don't know. Nobody
Oh.
knows.
Oh, okay. Tell me
That's
more.
the thing.
Oh.
So again, I feel like this is a famous case. I feel like this is a case that gets people interested in unsolved, unresolved mysteries, that kind of thing. But clearly not everybody knows about it. So I am happy to get to talk about it. I'm going to try to be as factual as I can. I really went down a lot of rabbit holes. I've spent a lot of time on the internet. I've spent a lot of time on blogs and Reddit, and mostly blogs. And it just so much. I have so much information in my head right now, and it makes me wonder like what childhood memories have seeped out to like make room for this important information. But that's not something I need to worry about right now. So let me introduce you to the beginning of the story of the Somerton Man. What's so interesting about this case is that certain information will start to lead you down a path that starts to make a certain amount of sense, but only if you are willfully ignoring certain other facts. And there's like no single pathway that elegantly combines all of the information. It's just, this is such a tricksy little story, and it just, you try to grab onto everything and it just slips right out of our tiny stupid baby fingers, because we're all just tiny stupid babies whose brains aren't big enough to figure out what happened to the Somerton Man. None of us know, and it's infuriating.
I like how the story, like you're setting the scene, just making all of us feel very insecure. Like, okay, so everyone, we're really dumb.
Okay, we're all fucking
We're all
stupid.
Babies.
And buckle up, babies.
Buckle up, babies. I would also like to mention that for the first time ever, for the third time ever, I guess, we are recording at night, at least for Julianne. She's staying up really late. Well, late to her. And she's just been studying all this stuff. And so it's like mad conspiracist energy, which is what we want.
Yeah.
Super excited.
This is definitely like a sleep brain right now. So a sleep brain is the brain that I need. A sleep brain is the brain that's going to make all the connections that my conscious, sober-ass brain can't make because it's too dumb. But we're going into a different mindset. We're going to connect all the fucking dots. We're going to solve the Somerton Man today.
Woo!
So, no, we're not. But let's get you introduced with the basics. I'm going to try not to give you every single detail, but I'm going to give you the interesting details, and I'll try to represent it factually. There's a lot of kind of conflicting information. I tried to drill down into the real, true facts to give you the real story. So let's get started.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. We're in Australia, okay?
Oh, shit.
We're in Australia. It's 1948. All right. You there?
You know what? Yeah, I'm there. Yeah.
It's November, December, okay? That's summer in Australia. Got it? Okay. She gets it. All right. So,
yeah.
On December 1st, 1948, on Somerton Park Beach in South Australia, which is near Glenelg.
Oh.
The city of Glenelg, which is 7 miles southwest of Adelaide, or 11 kilometers. A man is found dead on this beach. And if we reverse to November 30th, the day before, 7 p.m., there's a couple taking a walk. They see a man on the beach, okay? He's lying on the beach, resting against the seawall, and he kind of raises his right arm all the way up and just kind of limply drops it. And the guy in the couple, John Lyons, he kind of like makes a joke about like drunk people or whatever, right? Like, should we call the police? Nah, let's go about our lives, okay? There are a couple other people who see this man on the beach in the next however many hours. This was at 7 p.m. Did I say that? I don't know. This was at 7 p.m. November 30th. The next day, it's 6:30 in the morning. That same guy from the couple, John Lyons, he goes to the beach for some morning swim or whatever Australians get up to. And he sees that the man is still there. And he sees, weirdly, 2 horseback riders. I guess there are people just riding horses. 2 horseback riders are checking out the body. He goes over. He's like, "What's up, guys?" And apparently they had like kind of lifted up the man's leg and it was stiff as a board. The guy was dead. And so then they're like, "Oh, John, cool. Nice to meet you. You're here. You seem trustworthy. We're going to go and we'll let you handle this." So they leave. They go back to whatever horse stuff they're doing. And John calls the police. The Somerton Man, it's very interesting. He's on the beach, but he's wearing a full suit. Okay.
Wait. Can we stop for a second? Poor John just got all this dumped on his ass.
Yeah, don't worry. So this is the last time we hear about John.
Thank God.
So forget about John.
John. Okay.
You're going to have other people you're going to need to keep track of. Get rid of John.
Okay.
So he's in a full suit. He's resting against the seawall. His legs are extended outward and his feet are crossed over each other.
Relaxed.
Yeah, very relaxed. He has an unlit cigarette on the right collar of his coat, as if it had like fallen out of his mouth, maybe. In his pockets, he had an unused rail ticket, a bus ticket, a comb, some juicy fruit gum, a package of cigarettes with a different brand of cigarettes than what was on the box inside the box, and matches. And he has no wallet, no identification whatsoever. Policeman comes and, they kind of assume, they look at him. He doesn't have any obvious signs of injury, right? He doesn't look like he was like murdered necessarily. So it's kind of assumed it's suicide or something of that nature. And they carry him off. So they do an autopsy. And I am going to just read a part of the autopsy here with the information that they had. This isn't in the autopsy, but he looks around like 40, 45 years old. Okay. So he's 180 centimeters, which is 5'11" tall. He has gray eyes, fair to ginger colored hair, slightly gray around the temples, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist, hands and nails that showed no signs of manual labor, big and little toes that met in a wedge shape, like those of a dancer or someone who wore boots with pointed toes, and pronounced high calf muscles consistent with people who regularly wore boots or shoes with high heels or performed ballet. Then they, dig in and start seeing what's going on with this guy. And the autopsy says, the heart was of normal size and normal in every way. Small vessels not commonly observed in the brain were easily discernible with congestion. There was congestion in the pharynx, and the gullet was covered with whitening of superficial layers of the mucosa with a patch of ulceration in the middle of it. The stomach was deeply congested. There was congestion in the second half of the duodenum, which I've never heard of. There was blood mixed with the food in the stomach. So his stomach is filled with blood. Both kidneys were congested and the liver contained a great excess of blood in its vessels. The spleen was strikingly large, about 3 times normal size. So it looks like he has had heart failure, but otherwise his heart looks healthy. And one other thing that's interesting that some people think is interesting, some people don't think is interesting, is it looked as though there may have been blood pooling in the back of his skull as if he was lying down completely horizontally and then maybe was moved to be propped up, ? But some people don't care about that information. I don't know how valid it is. So they're checking into stuff like poisoning. They're like, what is going on with this guy? Was he poisoned? They do all these different tests to see if there's poison in his body, and they don't find anything. There's no obvious reason why he would have had heart failure. He didn't have any like vomiting or defecation. He wasn't like writhing around. There was no obvious signs that he would have been poisoned.
I think I know what happened.
You know what happened already? You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aliens.
Aliens, yes. Very good. Very good.
I mean, I'm half joking, but sounds like either it's aliens, like for realsies aliens, or it's some type of weird experimental shit. And I'm going full conspiracy so far in my mind.
Perfect. Okay.
Not going the logical route at all.
No, that's good.
I'm just deep diving.
Yeah.
I'm aware of it.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the support.
You're welcome. So, I guess something else to note about this man and his whole getup was that in addition to not having identification in the form of identification card, all of the tags of his clothing were ripped out. During 1948, during this time period, it wasn't uncommon necessarily for clothing to have the tags ripped out. A lot of the time, clothing did have people's names written on the tags. And so if people were, say, thrifting, they might rip the tag out in order to not be tied to somebody who doesn't own the clothing anymore. This is, right after World War II. We are in the Cold War era right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. For some reason, I was like in the 1980s. You asked me if I was in the 1940s, and I was like, yeah, I'm there.
1948.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, the 80s. This guy's like a ballerina, and he's like out partying, working in the big cities.
Yeah, no, unfortunately not.
Okay, sorry. 1940s. Gotcha.
Yeah, so could it just have been coincidental that there were no tags? Possibly. Could it have been that in addition to not wanting the clothing to say anything, somebody was, taking the tags out of the clothing. Somebody was taking the identification from this man in order to erase his identity? ? Was he erasing his identity? Was somebody else erasing it? Let's move on to where it gets fucking weird.
Oh, shit. It's not weird yet already?
It's not weird yet.
Shit.
This
okay,
is
well.
normal. We're about to veer into the other dimension, brother.
Oh, fuck. Okay, well, okay. I thought I was ready, but I guess I'm not. Okay, no. Proceed.
Okay, so the people want to know who this guy is. The police don't have a closed case here. They don't have identification yet. So they're kind of looking into different places of travel. They're trying to find anybody who may have seen this guy. And on January 14th, 1949, staff at the Adelaide railway station found a brown suitcase that was left behind. It had been checked into the cloakroom, where it was kind of like a ticket situation, like when you give your coat to a person, they give you a ticket, that kind of scenario. And there was one that had been checked in on November 30th at 11 a.m. And it was just never claimed. So they found it, they take it, and it was completely unlocked. This was back in the day where there were locks on suitcases, that kind of thing. Okay. It was unlocked.
Okay.
And what they find inside it are a dressing gown, a pair of slippers, 4 pairs of underpants, pajamas, shaving items, some trousers with sand in the cuffs.
Excuse me?
What? An electrician's screwdriver, a table knife cut down into a short, sharp instrument. What? A pair of scissors with sharpened points, a small square of zinc thought to have been used as a protective sheath for the knife and scissors, a stenciling brush as used by third officers for on merchant ships for stenciling cargo. And in addition to that, there was some orange waxed thread. Also, let's note, there are no socks. Why doesn't he have socks? He has everything else. Why doesn't he have socks? Anyway, the orange waxed thread is interesting because in the pocket of the Somerton Man, there was a mended little patch using the same orange wax. So this suitcase belongs to the Somerton Man. All right?
Why was there sand in the cuff? Sounds like mermaid.
I don't know. I don't hear any more information about it, and you're not going to either.
Problems.
So, one name is attached to some of the clothing on the back of a tie and on a laundry bag and maybe on like one other piece of clothing. There's the name T. Keen. So they're like, is this his name?
Like T. Keen?
T. Keen, correct.
Keen.
Keane.
Oh, okay.
And on one of them, it's spelled without the E.
Why?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Don't know. So, they take that information and they're trying to look into missing persons with this name, right? Because what's odd about this case, it's unfortunately not odd for people to go missing and not be found. That happens. But for a person to be found and for nobody to claim them is stranger. For no identity to fit to the person who's found, that's like not heard of.
Yeah, because usually when people go missing, there's at least one or two people searching for them or asking, like, where the hell did they go?
Yeah.
People are asking questions, but to have nobody step up and say, hey, where the fuck is Thomas or Trevor or
Treasure.
Tom or Treasure. Maybe his name was Treasure, Julian. Don't judge.
True. It's possible.
Treasure Keene. Okay.
Treasure Keene.
Like, where the fuck is Treasure?
Where's Treasure? It sounds like a Pomeranian's name.
Treasure. But like, why is no one stepping up?
Some people did.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Some people, when they saw his face in the paper, when the police were trying to get information, they were like, oh, I think that's my so-and-so, my whoever. But anytime they came to see him, they were like, no, that's actually not right. Like, that's not my person that I was looking for. So he was never claimed.
Oh.
Here's where it gets weird.
Oh. It's not weird yet?
Nope, not yet.
Oh my God.
Around the same time that this suitcase was found, a different, what's it called? Not mortician, a different mortuary person, that'll have to do, came and checked out the Somerton Man. And they found a small key fob pocket in his pants. You know what that is? A little tiny, tiny pocket?
Yes.
Cool.
My women jeans have so many of them.
Yeah.
But
I
not
never know
any
what to
regular
do with them.
pockets. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess I'll put my phone in this tiny little pocket.
They find this pocket, and that's not unusual for there to be a pocket. But what is unusual is what they find inside it. There's a very tightly rolled up piece of paper jammed into the crease of the pocket. Okay. The mortuary dude, his name is Cleland. He has to use tweezers to pull it out of the fob pocket. So that implies, like, was there something else in the pocket that was like pushed the paper down, or like why was it shoved, that far down? And so he unrolls the paper, and I can actually show you. I have some multimedia, but not really a lot because it's from 1948.
Yeah. Do you have a photo of the Somerton
Of him?
Man? Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Like the face they put in the papers.
And see, part of the issue of the face they put in the papers is they like used a photo of him from when he's already kind of like quite dead. So like he doesn't look super normal. Like people don't look super normal when they've been dead for like days, right? So this is him.
Oh.
Yeah. That's our guy. That's Treasure.
Oh, Treasure, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Treasure. Here is what was on the tiny, tiny paper. It was a ripped out piece of paper from somewhere that said Tamam Shud in a kind of fancy font. And this is Persian, and it translates to finished.
What?
Mm-hmm. He has a tiny piece of paper in his pocket that says finished or ended.
Ew.
Yeah. That's very unnerving.
That's suspicious.
It is. It is suspicious. So obviously they have to do all sorts of investigating to figure out where this would have come from. They're contacting librarians, blah, 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 blah. And they find that it comes from the last page of a book called the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. And this is actually, it's a book of poetry from, I don't know, like the 11th century or something, translated to English. And it was very popular at that time. I don't know why it was very popular, but it was. And it's just kind of a book about living life to the fullest, like no regrets, YOLO. And it apparently was also frequently gifted between lovers who were separated by war. That kind of book.
Oh, okay.
The police released this information to the press, okay? They have a call for, if anybody has a copy of the Rubaiyat, can you check the end of it and see if there is a ripped out segment? And somebody gets in touch with them. The book is located.
Oh my God.
A guy apparently, well, they're conflicting stories, but he says that he found it in the back of his car.
What?
It had been tossed through an open window, apparently,
What the fuck?
and was in the back of his car. Here's his copy of it ripped out. It's not the same shape because it looks like it was ripped down to size. Like it was a jankier rip, and then they kind of ripped it into a smaller rectangle.
Did tamam shud just mean it was the end of the book?
Yeah, it's kind of like the end, but it translates more
book.
specifically to finished.
Okay. Shall I read it for our audience?
Definitely not. It's not interesting.
I want to read it because it might be significant. I'm going to read it to myself.
You read it.
Okay. That meant nothing to me. What the fuck was that about? Okay.
You probably have to read the whole thing to understand. I think the whole thing is like one long poem.
Oh my God, guys.
Now,
Even more
here's
confused
where it gets
now.
weird.
Oh, well, you keep saying that. When does it stop getting weird? It just gets, okay. I thought
Here's
we
where
were
it gets
there.
weird.
Okay.
So,
Oh my God.
something interesting that they noticed on, first of all, I will say, apparently this copy of this book is a very rare New Zealand edition.
Whoa.
Yeah, and there's like no other copy of this specific printing, or there's like 1 or 0. I will tell you that there are multiple possible reasons why that would be the case. It could just be that the publisher, Whitcomb and Toombs, was bad at record keeping. That's possible. We didn't have computers. We didn't necessarily keep track of everything perfectly back in the day. Also, apparently during the war, there were severe paper rationing. So it's possible they put it out without any records in order to kind of scoot around the rationing.
I see.
That's possible. It could be a counterfeit book. It could be a bootleg book, or it could be a fake book used by spies as a one-time pad.
Oh yeah, spies.
Yeah. What makes me say that, Chloe?
Roald Dahl. No? Okay.
No, not that.
Okay.
But on the inside back cover of this copy of the book, the detectives found indentations left from some writing, as if the book had been used as like a hard surface when you're writing something.
Oh my fuck. No.
And I'll show you what was on it. How do you feel when you look at this? Tell us what you see here.
Okay, guys. I'm looking at this old black and white photo once again. Here we are. It's really strange. It's just a bunch of random letters. They're just random capitalized letters scribbled across. I see 3 lines on top and then 2 lines of random letters on the bottom. And there's also these strange horizontal lines, like he was crossing something out. But then in the middle one, there's like this little X, and I'm not really sure if that was meant to be there or not, but that's kind of strange.
It's all pretty strange.
It seems like a code to me.
It does seem like a code.
Not backwards. Yeah, I wouldn't say backwards because I'm reading it. I didn't crack it, guys. Newsflash, it's not backwards. But this guy it's either this guy or it's somebody else who is some mad, resentful genius who's a sociopath, serial killer, or just this one-time killer. But I don't know what this Somerton Man did to this guy, but this person seems a little demented.
Do
Just
you think the
looking at
Somerton Man did something to who?
Some demented person or aliens.
You think a demented person wrote this and killed the Somerton Man?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
That's
fine.
Why is anyone reading? What is this? Is this, I was going to say like maybe it's like a computer code, but there's no computers.
No,
right?
Not really.
Because sometimes we had like the Wi-Fi passwords and they look like this. I was going to say maybe it's just someone's Wi-Fi password. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Okay.
Unfortunately not. And something else that was on this paper that's cut out due to privacy, there was a local telephone number and another phone number. One of the phone numbers belonged to a bank, and one of them belonged to a nurse named Jessica Ellen Jo Thompson, who lived a 5-minute walk from where the Somerton Man was found dead.
Jessica.
So they get in touch with, we'll call her Joe, I guess. It's hard to tell which one she went by.
Jessica?
Well, I'll say Jessica.
I say Josica.
Josica.
That was her full name.
She actually has another nickname. We'll get there.
Oh, okay.
So when they first contact her, she's evasive. And I will also note that apparently she reported, or I guess, I don't know if it was her who reported or a neighbor who reported it, but at some time in late 1948, an unidentified man had attempted to visit her and inquired with a neighbor about her. What's that about? We don't know what that's about. That's where that clue ends.
Written into the back of a like a romance book, romance poetry book.
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
So they contact her. They ask if she knows the guy. She doesn't know the guy. They ask if she knows the book. She does know the book. It's one of her favorite books, The Rubaiyat. They ask if she's ever given anybody a copy of this book. She says, yes, actually, I gave a copy of it to a soldier named Alf Boxall, who she had met at like the Clifton Gardens Hotel bar in the area. So they assume, oh, we've got the guy. It's got to be Alf Boxall then, right? No, Alf is alive. He's alive and well, and it wasn't his book. He has his book. So, dead end. And what's frustrating about all the situation is that there weren't really any fingerprints taken at any point. The police just kind of handled all this stuff and they weren't really precautious about anything because they just kind of assumed that it was a suicide. And they didn't realize it was fucking creepy until nobody showed up for the body. By then it was too late. Everything had been so tampered with. One thing that I'll note before we get into some theories is that a pharmacologist a pharmacology expert did show up during the inquest and say that there is a poison that could have resulted in a heart failure and gone mostly undetected. It's called digitalis. Have you heard of digitalis?
No, ma'am.
Do you know the flowers foxglove?
No.
They're just a cute flower.
Oh, wait. Yes.
They're deadly.
Yes. Oh, okay.
They can, too much foxglove, too much digitalis can mimic a heart attack, and it leaves the body really quickly. So it's possible that could have been a poison in question. There was definitely some American senator who was like accused of being a spy, and he was found dead with a heart attack, and it was because of digitalis. He killed himself, and then it was revealed that he was a spy. So, he kind of got out of there.
Okay.
So the man is never identified. and the suitcase was destroyed in 1986. And like all of the files have just been they've just disappeared from the police file over the years because it's just been so long, you know, and record keeping isn't what it is now back in the 40s, 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can go into some theories briefly here. And I'll tell you,
Okay.
there are so many blogs. I've been on so many blog spots and so many blogs. They're major players. There are major players in this. There are a lot of different people involved in this who are trying to figure this out, and they all seem to hate each other.
Oh.
Everyone on the internet hates each other. There's a guy named Nick who has a blog, and there's a guy named Pete who has a blog, and there's a guy named Gordon who has a blog, and they all kind of like write sassy things to each other. And at first I thought they were joking, but then sometimes it feels like they really hate each other. I can't tell if they're buddies or not.
Come on, guys.
And one of them, as much as I love the drama of blog infighting, I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to become a target. Apparently one of these guys like doxed a young girl, like who made him angry or something. He's very hostile. I'm not going to name names, but he's very hostile and his comments freak me out. And he's my least favorite of the blogging crew. That's all I'll say.
Oh.
I think probably one of the most intriguing theories is the spy theory, right? Like, that's
Okay.
pretty fun. It's a time of heightened international tension. Like, it's the start of the Cold War, and spy stuff is happening everywhere during this period. That's not a falsehood. And this case kind of reminds me of the Isdal woman case. Have you heard of that?
No.
No. Okay. I don't know all the facts, but she's a woman who was found kind of around this time, maybe a little bit later. She was found in a Norwegian forest, burned quite badly. And she was found with a bunch of stuff kind of similar to this guy, but it's more overt because she was found with like a bunch of passports with like a bunch of different identities and, you know, tags ripped out of stuff, all that kind of thing. So it's similar, but that's a way more obvious case, right?
Okay.
So I guess the first thing to note is that unfortunately this creepy code doesn't seem to be a cipher. It doesn't seem to be a straightforward secret code that like a spy would use, probably. Like there's been a lot of attention paid to it and nobody's found that it fits in any way. But what a lot of people say, I won't say everybody, what a lot of people say is that it's an acrostic. You know what an acrostic is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, it's just like the first letter of words. So like this would be a whole sentence condensed down to just the first letters of the words in the sentence.
Yeah. Like acrostic poems, if you take your name, like my name's Chloe, C is for creative, H is for whatever, L is for whatever, right? So that would be interesting. I feel like that's a lot to remember.
Right? Like
that's too much.
This is so long. What would that be useful for?
Yeah. I know that there used to be like certain sequences, you know, that or patterns that spies would use to be able to decipher messages. But without those sequences or patterns, it's pretty hard to crack the code if we don't have those things because they're secrets.
I guess one thing that kind of leans me into thinking it probably is an acrostic is the fact that analysis was done to it and it does kind of like the letters line up with what would be like in a sentence. I don't know how to describe this, but like the frequency of vowels and consonants lines up with the frequency of vowels and consonants in the first letter of words in typical sentences in English, if that makes sense.
Oh, I see. Like the first line says, I don't even know what like that
Yeah, I don't know what that letter is.
It's like either a really strange W with legs, or like really
Or
long
an
arms,
M.
or it's an M. But let's disregard that. So I'm looking at RGOABABD, and OA to me sounds like of a,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, or as any of the fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet.
And see, when I look at the last line where it says ITTMTS, I'm not going to say the whole thing, but literally it just jumps in my head. I think that my something. Like,
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know. Like, it's easy to kind of feel that sentence pattern a little bit.
Is there, well, we got a bunch of T's, so that could be treasure. I don't see any J's though. I don't see any J's for Josica. So
Josica, yeah. I don't see K for key. Wait, is that a K or is that an N?
Yeah, that's an N. That's not a K. Yeah,
it's not a K. Anyway.
Yeah. But there's a lot of T's for treasure, so who knows?
Yeah.
But that's too many. In my opinion. Yeah, interesting. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And I mean, it is weird the fact that he had all these like different tickets and seemed to be changing his travel plans, like, because one of the tickets was like to a different beach or something, and apparently the train ticket had been punched, so the police surmised that he passed through the platform barrier, but then he like just missed a beach train, a Henley Beach train, and then he walked and grabbed a bus instead to a different beach. And yeah, it's just apparently one of the destinations was quite far away from where he ended up, and then he just buys a bus ticket randomly like a few minutes before getting on it. And so it's just like, is he doing this intentionally to get somebody off his trail? It's odd behavior. Oh, I didn't even tell you, I don't think, that so Jessica, you know, she has the book connection, right? But then they ask her to come look at this plaster bust that they had made of the man. She looks at it and she goes silent. She looks faint. She stares at the ground. She refuses to look at it after looking at it the first time. And she just says, like, no, I don't know that man. But she is like shook to her core.
Oh, she knows who that man
She
is.
knows
She knows
who he is. She knows. And the detective, that's what he felt as well. But they had nothing on her that
I
they
have a
could
theory.
link. Okay.
Get ready. Might not
Okay.
make sense, but this is where I'm at. Maybe this guy wasn't a spy. Maybe he was a stalker. Okay, so maybe he saw Jessica on a train or a bus or whatever kind of transportation. Maybe he met her at a store at some point, or I don't know. And he had he became infatuated with her, but she didn't really show interest in him. And so maybe he made some threats to her. Maybe he didn't like the man he was becoming. Maybe she was really scared of this person. Maybe she felt like if she said anything, she could put herself or other people that she loves in danger for whatever reason. And maybe he just became so sick of his dark mind at that point that he ended up killing himself. But it's, I don't know. All the other, why was his hand raised?
There's a lot of stuff.
I thought he was dead.
Well, he was alive. It seemed like he was dying, possibly, at that time. Not dead yet, but...
But, I mean, the fact that he was found like 5 minutes away from her house makes me think that he and her, they had a connection, or I think that she meant something to him, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. There was some sort of significance with her.
Chloe, let's delve a little deeper into that,
Oh
shall
my
we?
God. Theory number 2.
Well, I'm going to have a little bit of a blurred travel into the next theory, but I'll just say briefly that there was a Channel 9 60 Minutes program on this topic in 2013, and Kate Thompson, who's the daughter of Jessica and Prosper, who was her soon-to-be husband at the time, Kate said that the mother had lied to the police, and she said that Jessica did know the identity of the man, and she also apparently said that he was, quote unquote, known to a level higher than the police force. What?
Oh.
And she had all sorts of suggestions that maybe they were both spies interested in communism. She also said that her mother could speak Russian, but that her mother would not disclose where she had learned that or why. But I will also add on that some of Jessica's other friends said things basically like Jessica was too dumb and lazy to learn any language. So who do we trust? I don't know. Did she know Russian? Unclear.
Well, isn't that what a spy would want you to think?
That's the thing.
Right?
That's the thing, isn't it?
I'm just too lazy. Oh, that's not for me. Because you wouldn't want people to know that you speak Russian if you're a spy.
The thing. And that's what's interesting about the spy thing is because clearly spies would be good at planting a mundane story where there's a more interesting story, right? So, ripping out tags makes a certain amount of sense. But then the fact that there's so much kind of weird, random information and weird stuff left behind that gives us more questions than mundane answers is like, was stuff planted by spies? Like, was there trickery afoot or was there not? It's hard to tell. And before we move into Jessica, I do want to show you one of the things that one of the blogging boys really loves. I want you to look at this code again, and we're going to zoom in. And what do you see when we zoom in, Chloe? Read between the lines, Chloe. What do you see? Microcode. What you see there is microcode. Oh. What you see is inside, in the little grains, the tiny little grains of the letters is microcoded. That's what I've been spending all my time doing. Reading a guy who writes a blog saying that each of these letters has tiny, tiny little words written inside them. He doesn't know what they say yet. And sometimes it's codes. It's just a bunch of letters. And he says you can print out this picture and you can dip it in some bleach or something. And even though it's not the original print, it'll reveal the microcode to you.
Has he done this?
He says he has.
What's the code?
He hasn't figured it out yet. But he's figured out that the secret is that it's tiny, tiny, tiny letters, tiny imperceptible letters written inside the other letters. Okay, it makes all the sense in the world.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
I know. When you asked me, I was like, am I...
No, I don't see anything.
Are you trying to gaslight me? What is this?
Literally, it's just insane. It's crazy.
It sounds, excuse me.
It's a fun idea.
It looks like just regular...
It just looks like
pen marks.
Page.
Yeah. But you know what? Hey, man, he could be right. He could be onto something. And hey, man, if you can prove it, prove it.
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
The fucking code, man. So I'll keep checking his blog for the rest of my life and I'll let you know if it ever updates.
For the rest of your life.
We'll get into
Follow
Jessica.
us on Instagram and Facebook for the rest of your life to see if we break
we'll give you the final deciphering of the microcode. So Jessica is very interesting.
I don't think Jessica is her real name.
You may be onto something. She has signed other things with the name Justine. What's that about?
Jessica sounds like a made-up name. I don't know why. Like, usually whenever I hear Jessica for other people, it sounds real. But I feel like in this story, it just sounds like some American, like the most common American name you could think of, and then use it. Or like the most common alias, like something super normal. No, I'm sorry for everyone.
All Jessicas listening are offended.
I'm really sorry, but you know what I mean. Like it just.
I watch a lot of Australian reality TV, and I've seen a lot of Jessicas on it.
Just because a beautiful name, I'm just saying maybe if someone wanted to pick something that would make them seem inconspicuous, maybe they would pick something that seems nice and pleasant and normal. Yeah. You know?
That's very possible.
I hope everyone's feelings are unhurt.
Oh, they're fine. They're fine.
My name is Chloe, right? And substitute teachers have called me Shloey.
Oh, really?
That happened.
Oh.
Yeah. Chole is the most popular.
Wow. Geniuses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people spell my name Chole over and over and over. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why? So just, yeah. Anyway, random tangent. Carry on.
So there is obviously the theory that, you know, the Somerton Man knew Jessica. Jessica knew the Somerton Man. They may have even had an affair, and she may have wanted to keep it under wraps because she's like about to be married to this other guy. And what makes us say that is that there are some appearance similarities between her son Robin and the Somerton Man.
Oh, Jessica.
They both have a ear situation where their like upper hollow of their ear is bigger than their lower hollow, which is like quite rare. Something about their teeth is also a little unusual.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, maybe he was all in, she was all out, and, you know, scorned lover. He's quote unquote finished. He's to mom should. He's like, what about this book? What about our love? You know? And she's like, nah, dude, I'm busy. And then he goes and can't take it anymore. It's very possible.
Or was she sitting with him at the beach and gives him something with that stuff in it and then leaves him there on the beach and walks home?
That's interesting because, as we said before, Jessica was a nurse, or she trained to be a nurse in World War II. And digitalis is not only a poison, it's also something used in medicine. From Britannica, digitalis directly increases the contractile powers of the heart muscle, enabling a disease-weakened heart to keep up with the body's demand for heart action. And if this man already had this 3 times enlarged spleen, if he was suffering from some sort of condition and he went to her and she's a nurse and he's asking for help, he's like, you know, I'm the father of your son or whatever, help me. I don't know. And she gives him digitalis, but she overdoses him unintentionally or intentionally. Bad things can happen.
Oh, Jessica. Oh, boy. Girl. No.
And I'll also say, do you remember that his calves were really strong? And you mentioned the ballet dancing potential. Apparently, Jessica made her son Robin do ballet. He didn't ask to do ballet, and it wasn't super usual for, you know, men at that time to be doing ballet of their own accord or anything. But she dragged him there. Was it because she knew he might have a penchant for it if his father did?
Yeah, like guilt maybe, like, you know, this is the least I can do for your father.
If she knew he would be talented at it because his dad was.
Maybe.
And I mean, Robin did become a ballet dancer, I believe. It's interesting.
Okay, so I no longer think it's aliens. I retract my previous statement. I think it was an affair. Mm-hmm. Whether they were in love or not, I think at some point Jessica felt like she had some decisions to make about her life and how it was going to go. And I think maybe and this is just the way it sounds. I don't want to, accuse anyone. Allegedly, let's say this for the podcast. Allegedly, I think maybe she could have made some wrong choices to maintain the status quo in her life, or to not ruin it with somebody. I don't know. Or maybe they were both spies at some point, and
it could be a combo.
Maybe this was like her old, like, not partner. What is that called? Like when you work together?
Coworker.
I
feel like partner works.
Co-spy.
Co-spy, yeah.
And maybe they fell in love, or he fell in love with her, and maybe she had like a moment of weakness. She was vulnerable one night, and maybe, or I don't want to think this way about Treasure.
Tell me.
But could she have...
Okay, you literally accused Treasure of being a stalker like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah. No, but this is worse.
Okay.
Could Treasure have violated her? And
that's possible.
And started coming after her. And she felt like in order to protect her life and her family, and maybe she didn't believe in, getting rid of the child or anything. Like maybe she wanted to keep it. I don't know. Maybe she wanted to, I don't really know, but maybe Treasure was not a good guy, and she felt like she had to protect herself. I don't know, but why would she
comfortable saying his name, like identifying him, if it was a violation?
What was the name she gave again?
For what?
Wait, what do you mean the name?
Like, because she refused to say who he was, even though she knew who he was.
Oh.
See, the thing is when you take these facts and you run down these paths, it all makes sense, right? Like this makes sense. But then you kind of start to remember, like, wait, oh wait, there was a code too, and like, wait, like, are we just writing weird acrostics now and throwing books in cars, and are we just gonna like ignore that part of it and write that off as just like completely unrelated? Or then like, okay, if we're gonna write that off, then what about like how he has no identity whatsoever, and like nobody seems to step forward to say that they know who he is? Like how is that possible?
Maybe they were spies then.
Yeah,
maybe they were spies then.
Spies.
And maybe that code was just for her eyes only. She's the only one who can understand what it means. Because maybe when they worked together or worked under the same thing, again, like with the certain assigned patterns and sequences that they would decode random messages from, maybe they both operated from the same sequence or something, and he thought like maybe she'll be smart enough to figure this out. Maybe that message was just for her. I don't know.
Yeah, that's possible. Let me tell you 2 more interesting facts here and see if that adds anything to your theory. Okay?
Oh my god. Okay.
So this is a weird, this is kind of hearsay, but this is a weird thing I found, where apparently Josica was her favorite book was called Howard's End by E.M. Forster. And when you look at what the book's about, in the story, a woman has a son out of wedlock, and the lover or whoever dies. Her family didn't mean to kill him. They just wanted to scare him away. He already had a pre-existing health condition, I think heart condition specifically, and the fight that they had with him caused him to die. And that's the plot of her favorite book. That's kind of weird, isn't it?
That's suspicious.
That's a little suspicious.
That's a little sus.
Then the other thing I'll tell you, and this may be completely unrelated, but there are a couple little links that are interesting. Okay.
Okay.
In 1945, 3 years before the Somerton Man died, there was a Singaporean man named George Marshall. He was found dead in Ashton Park, Mosman, with an open copy of the Rubaiyat on his chest. That's the same book that we mentioned earlier. That's fine. Remember, it's a popular book. That's fine. What's interesting, this park is directly next to Clifton Gardens Hotel. Do we remember Clifton Gardens Hotel, Chloe?
I'm starting to. What was the significance of that again?
That was where Josica met Alf, who she gave the Rubaiyat to. And this man, Marshall, appeared to have died by suicide by poisoning. And this happened 2 months before Josica gave Alf the copy of the Rubaiyat. What?
Okay. Huh? Okay. So allegedly.
Oh,
Jessica.
Wait.
Oh my God. Just tell me everything before I start going on.
I forgot.
What?
He was the brother of a guy who ended up becoming Singapore's first chief minister.
Oh.
There's a political tie. That's interesting too.
Okay. So allegedly, fucking Josica at this point is either a spy, and that's her, like, her calling card, like that's her mark that it was her, or she was a serial killer.
Maybe she was a serial killer. Nobody's fucking talking about that.
Because what the fuck?
What the fuck? So I'm not going to go deep into anything else. There are more theories. There is more information. I will say, I mean, the idea that the book, the Rubaiyat, was used in some way as a means of identification or of code sharing is very interesting. And I'll just add briefly that Nick from the blog Cipher Mysteries, which mysteriously went down today on the day that we're recording this episode. Coincidence? No. Cipher Mysteries. He theorized that the ripped out tamam shud could have been a means of confirming identification with some underhanded dealings. It's possible that maybe the Somerton Man wasn't identified because he was involved in criminal or gang activity. And maybe so was Joe's husband, Prosper. Because at this time, apparently, there's a huge black market for car selling. I don't know specifically why, but that was a huge thing going on. And Joe's husband, Prosper, was involved in a court case that had to do with some of this shady business. So is it possible that the Somerton Man was involved with Prosper and not Joe? Because that was a house number. They didn't have cell phones in 1948. That was Joe and Prosper's house. Could he have sold his car to Prosper and intentionally hidden away the Rubaiyat that had the ripped part into the car, then went to wherever town this was and find who Prosper sold it to see if he got ripped off, and was able to like prove his connection to the car with the ripped out piece of paper? Could the air of silence be due to people not wanting to reveal that they're involved in a black market situation, like all the people around him? Nobody wanted to be caught in that. But it's just like the fact that nobody over this amount of time has said anything, like implying that his whole life was crime and nothing else. Like, I just feel like if you're involved in crime, if you're involved in spy stuff, don't you have to still create a veil of like a normal life and have like some normal interactions with other human beings? Like, and if he's just a random ballet dancer, wouldn't a ballet pal be like, where's my ballet buddy Treasure? Where is he? Like, just the fact that whether it was a random accident or somebody taking him out, like, how has nobody stepped forward and said, like, I'm missing a person? I just don't get it.
Maybe. Maybe Treasure had a fallout with his family from a very young age, and they just didn't talk to each other anymore, and so they never expected to hear or see from him again. And then he maybe was recruited into the military, trained as a spy. Maybe that upper calf work was for something we're not really understanding. And maybe he literally
tiptoeing because he's a spy.
Yeah, and maybe the only connections he tiptoeing. And maybe the reason no one really knows about him is because the only people who really knew him were spies themselves, or in the military, or in some sort of secret program, and they sought out people like that who didn't really have an identity or a place in the community. Maybe that's the kind of people they wanted. And so this guy maybe goes on some mission, and he has a run-in with Jessica at some point. And oh God, I don't know. There's so many possibilities.
There really are.
And it's like you said, as soon as you get on one train, you remember all the other details, and you're like, well, then what the fuck was that about then?
Yeah. And I mean, some people have theorized that he's just, an immigrant, an illegal immigrant. Like, there were a lot of people moving to Australia, and maybe he was just like a quote unquote low class immigrant who didn't have an identity, that kind of thing. But then it's like, I don't know, there are these implications that he could have been like a horseback riding rancher kind of immigrant. But then there's also the information that there were no calluses on his hands. Like, he had hands that show that he did no manual labor. His clothing was all like, it wasn't like quote unquote trashy. It wasn't like super ritzy. It was smack dab in the middle. Was that intentional? Was it a cover up of reality? Or was he just a dude in the middle who wasn't an immigrant or wasn't a spy? I don't know. Like, it's so weird.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well,
well, we have no answers. But I have great news.
Oh, what?
I have great news that I forgot to tell you.
Okay.
The body was exhumed in May 2021 to get his DNA and test his DNA.
And?
We haven't heard anything.
Oh, fuck. When was this?
May
Again?
2021.
How long does it take?
A year ago. I don't know. Don't know. We just have to wait forever. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I literally like Google it all the time just to be like, are there any updates on this? And like,
oh my God.
No updates. We don't know who he is.
Okay, so we're going to be checking in and keeping up with it for the rest of our lives. Oh my God. Dude.
It's fucked up. It's so weird.
Ugh.
How do you feel about Treasure? Do you love him? Do you hate him?
I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed with him and Jessica. Like, I mean, I feel so bad for him though. Like, to die that way is, I don't know. It's just very lonely and sad, and I just wish we knew what happened.
I know.
And I wish that all these random pieces would just come together and make sense. But, right now it just seems so strange and bizarre. And I think that's frustrating in itself, is that when you feel like you're getting so close, it just kind of gets ripped away. So
yeah,
definitely. I hope that his story can come to light and justice can be served where it needs to be served.
Justice.
Yeah. And if it were aliens and Jessica was an alien, well, then I was right all along.
I did try to find like the wackiest theory possible for you, but most people don't veer into like alternate dimensions or aliens for this one.
I like how I went there immediately in the beginning.
Yeah, you were ready.
I was done. I was like, oh, it's aliens. Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, it could have still been.
Yeah, we don't know.
Jessica could be an alien. She could be a spy from another planet. Okay.
That's true.
Yeah, you ever think about that? That she picked the name Jessica and then she accidentally wrote Justine a couple times and she was like, oh, fuck, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. My name's
I don't
Jessica.
understand any
All
of
these earthly
letters.
names. Yeah, and then she just writes down letters because maybe she was like, maybe it was, I don't know if it was
She was
her writing that.
practicing her handwriting.
Somebody, or maybe Treasure was also an alien. And he
Yeah.
was practicing his alphabet. And he was like, I got to get better at these letters.
It's like a
You know?
plot of like Third Rock from the Sun or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just like, God, where does Jessica live again? Okay, I got to write that down. Where's the fucking bank? I need like earthly money.
Or maybe if they are aliens, they can write microcode, actually.
Maybe yeah.
Gordon's onto something.
Gordon could be onto it.
Yeah.
God. Okay, well, that theory is my favorite.
That's the most solid theory. Yeah.
That's the most solid, has the most evidence,
All-encompassing.
makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Checks out.
Mhm.
Or what's another wacky theory?
Time travel.
Doppelganger.
Doppelganger.
Jessica ran into his doppelganger and she knew who he was. And the reason no one's looking for him is because the real Treasure is alive.
It's Alf.
And
they don't look the same.
Yeah, maybe it's Alf. Oh, okay. Well, maybe maybe Treasure, it really is out there. And she was in the Twilight Zone, like an episode of the Twilight Zone in real life. And she felt like with her nurse skills, she had to take this doppelganger down. And she did. And that's why when they asked, she was just like, oh, nope, not going there. Because who's going to believe me that it was a doppelganger that I killed? No one's going to believe Jessica.
Nobody will believe that.
Okay, that's my new... Okay, that's now my number one theory. There's no better theory than that to me. But
I agree.
Wow, what a cool episode. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. A little conspiracy for you.
A conspiracy. Well, cool. I mean, gosh, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
That was a really good episode.
And again, if you want all of the information, check out men's blogs on the internet. They have all the information. I'm sure you can find it. I'll put some of them in the show description, but not all of them.
Not all of them.
No.
We'll give you a place to start, and then the rest of it is your job.
Yeah, it's your journey.
It's your journey, my friend.
All right. Well, if you liked this episode, please feel free to give us a rating / review wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps us out with the algorithm. We also have Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. You can find us on there as I'm scared, but I like it. Except for on Instagram. Right now, our Instagram username is ISBILI, ISBILI pod, POD. Maybe one day it'll be I'm scared, but I like it again. Thanks, Mark Zuckerberg. Give us a follow. Why not? Give us a subscribe. What else?
That would be super, super chill if you did that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
It would be so chill.
So chill.
If you feel so inclined to support us financially in any way, small or kind of small or medium or big, feel free to check out our Ko-fi page, kofi.com/I'm scared but I like it. If you have any paranormal, spooky, weird stories, email them to us at I'm scared but I like it @gmail.com. We would love to have an episode where we get to share listener stories.
Oh, please. That's the stuff I live for. I want to know the weird shit that has happened to you that you feel like you can't talk to anyone else about. We will believe you. Well, I'll believe you.
Chloe will believe you, and I'm open to believing you.
That's fair.
I'm interested in believing you.
I'm open to hearing about it. Also, shout out to Julianne for this wonderful episode. She also edits and puts together all the episodes, so she's really killing it and filling in for all the places I fall short. So, thank you.
Stop. It's my pleasure. Oh, sorry. It is 11:30 p.m. I didn't mean to.
Oh my God, shit, that's right. I'm so sorry I've done this to you.
No,
she was so nice to wait for me after work to do this. Because I live like 5 hours later. Well,
I mean, you've done morning recordings for me before, so you know.
Yeah, it is pretty hard to be up at 10 a.m. For real though. All right. Well, we hope that you guys take care of yourselves. You stay happy, stay freaky out there in a good way, I guess. Not in the weird way, not in a bad way. Now I'm regretting that I said that. Stay cool.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell to the yeah, sisters. And all
And everyone else.
the freaky werewolves and vampires out there in the streets.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Shout out to all of our doppelgangers and aliens listening in.
Oh,
we
yeah.
see you. And we're going to fucking find you.
They're like, nope. Well, we already found you and you don't even know we're looking at you. That's so creepy. Yeah, but shout out to them especially. Like,
yes.
Out of all the haunted podcasts you could be listening to, you're listening to us.
God. Oh my God.
Blessed.
Truly.
Thank you. Please listen to our next one. Anyway, I guess that's it, guys. Thank you, Julianne. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace out, doppelgangers. So we're back. We're back from the future. Hey, everyone. Something crazy has happened. Chloe actually found this out for us as a collective. Chloe, what's up?
Guys, holy balls. So now we know we're pretty sure we know who the Somerton Man is.
Big news.
Big news.
Big fucking news.
I mean, we just spent the entire episode spinning our wheels, but now we have I wouldn't say a face to the name, but a name to the face. Nice.
Maybe.
Most likely.
Maybe.
But we're still waiting.
Probably.
Yeah, we're still waiting on the official word.
Yes. So we're recording this now on September 2nd, and I think the news came out, in like late July? ?
Yes, late July. Right at the end of July of this year, 2022.
So some of the DNA has been processed and linked to a person, an actual person with an actual name. His name is Carl. Carl, quote unquote, Charles Webb. Just choose one. They're so similar. Why add Charles into the mix? But that's neither here nor there.
We were very far off with treasure. For the record, I admit it, 100%.
Okay, we don't
100%
know
off.
everything about Carl yet. So
but it ain't treasure. What if
it's still a mystery? There's still a mystery.
They were like, his nickname around town was treasure.
Oh my God.
And I'm psychic.
That will never happen. That's less likely to happen than aliens being involved.
Anyway, whatever.
So to be clear, this is not the official results of the exhumation. This is some DNA stuff that Derek Abbott did. And Chloe, I don't think I really touched on Derek Abbott. Do you know who Derek Abbott is?
Is he the guy who processed the DNA?
Yes. He's been involved for a really long time in this case. There are like a couple major players, not in the blogosphere, but in the like kind of mainstream investigation journalism sphere. Derek Abbott, who, God, I don't know, he's just like some professor. He's not like an investigator necessarily. And I can't remember the name. There's also a guy who's actually like a detective, and they like butt heads. Like they're both in documentaries all the time. But Derek Abbott he does his own thing. He's doing his own investigation, and he processed the DNA not with the authorities. Like, I mean, he was allowed to, but like he wasn't. The authorities still need to confirm this information. What's interesting about Derek is he is so entrenched in this dude. So do you remember Robin, Josica's son?
Yes.
Robin had a daughter. I think her name was Rachel. And when Derek met Robin's daughter, they like fell in love at first sight, and they've been married ever since. So like he married into like the Somerton Man thing, like while he was investigating. He's like in it.
What?
Chloe's face. I left it up. It's very juicy, but I feel like most people who like know about the Somerton Man already know about Derek Abbott, so I didn't really mention it. It wasn't super relevant, but it's kind of interesting
Well,
that he...
that changes the validity just a little bit, don't you think?
It does. That's what I'm saying. So I said to Chloe earlier, like, just given who Derek Abbott is, and he's doing this side shit, and this isn't like the official announcement of anything, like, we need to take some of this with a grain of salt, because he has been wanting to solve this case forever,
since
like his
he was
whole
born.
life. So, so it's just like, I'm not holding his true love against him. He can have whatever love he wants. Love is love. I'm just saying he's like really in it. So, grain of salt.
Well,
I feel like I've just like, I feel like you no longer believe any of this information now that I've shared that.
Well, I'm a little more...
Chloe's brain broke.
Yeah,
I should have told you this beforehand.
Yeah, it's like, you know, when your computer is like processing and there's like that little spinning wheel. That's my brain right now. Well,
yeah.
No, it's not that I don't believe anymore. I think it just adds a little less to the credibility of it all, because it feels like he's no longer an outside third-party source. It feels like he's a little more intermingled, and, you know, with human beings, sometimes we can really want something to be when, you know, I don't know. But at the same time, I also don't think it's impossible to, love somebody in that family and then want to solve your own goddamn mystery.
And I will say he always leans toward the more mundane answer. He's not like fantastical. He's not like latched onto like the spy thing or whatever. But, you know, some could say maybe he overcorrects into mundanity. I don't know. So he's not like a completely unbiased outside character.
It is a little suspicious that he hasn't brought up the idea that it could be doppelgangers. I mean, that's a little suspicious.
It's super suspicious. Yeah.
No, but I mean, he could totally be right on the money. It's just, I think this will just have to be verified by outside sources or multiple sources in order for us to have...
They're waiting for the coroner. They're waiting for the coroner to like...
There you go.
Confirm or deny.
Well, good for him though, because if he is right on the money, if he's correct, then more power to him. That's awesome.
Kudos.
Yeah. That's great.
So he used a hair that was attached to the death mask of the Somerton Man. So I guess the plaster they put on his face. And what the coroner's more interested in is doing more processing on stuff like the bones and like the skull and that kind of stuff. So I guess that's why it's taking longer.
Okay.
Because, we'd been waiting for God knows how long. But I'll read quickly what the Smithsonian says about what Abbott has been up to with this DNA. To narrow down the pool of potential candidates, Abbott and Fitzpatrick plugged the Somerton Man's DNA into the genealogical research database GED Match. After finding a match to a distant cousin, the researchers constructed a family tree of some 4,000 people. They then used archival records to search for individuals whose biographies mirrored what was known about the Somerton Man. Webb, who was born in the Australian state of Victoria in 1905, fit the bill. In all this soup and ocean of DNA cousins, we were able to connect one of them to Carl's father and one of them to Carl's mother, Fitzpatrick tells The Times. You really kind of narrow it down so much it could be any of Carl's siblings, but Carl is the one with no documented death.
Oh.
That's pretty promising. We like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they could really have the right answer here. We just need more verification.
There's not a lot of information about Carl Webb out there. But, cyphermysteries.com, that blog is doing the Lord's work. Be sure to go check out that blog for like every single nitty-gritty detail that you could ever want. I'll link it in the description. But he's finding little pieces. He's finding little tiny pieces. But the main piece of information that we have about Carl is information about his divorce from a woman named Dorothy Jean, who went by Doff, which I prefer. So I'm going to say Doff. And what's interesting about it is they divorced because he left. So like a year before the Somerton Man was found, Carl allegedly left. He left Doff. She reported that he was sullen and rude. She reported that he wouldn't talk to her for days at a time. And she then, several years later filed for divorce in the early 50s, claiming desertion. She said, he has deserted the marriage, so I want a divorce. And because he put out an ad in the paper saying like, Carl, you better fucking come to the court and fucking deal with this, buddy. This is your last chance. And he doesn't show up. So she gets the divorce. And that's the last time that there's any information about Carl, dead or alive. And so from there, they started digging around and finding out more information about who Carl was.
Carl was born November 16th, 1905 in Footscray to Richard August Webb and Eliza Amelia Morris Grace. Carl had a lot of brothers and sisters. He had 5 brothers and sisters, Russell, Freda, Gladys, Doris, and Roy, and then Carl was the 6th. And in Carl's adulthood, apparently he was an electrical engineer and an instrument maker from Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah, scientific instruments, probably.
But what about his calves, though?
Yeah, that's a fucking question, isn't it? What the fuck is going on with his calves? He just does calf raises, I guess.
He was really hyper-focused on his calves and his calves workout. But that was the question all along, right? Is he had these very specific calves that were said to be like of ballet dancers. So if he was an electrical engineer, an instrument maker from Melbourne, was he just tippy-toeing a lot, like to reach places?
Oh, also, remember how his hands looked like they'd not done any manual labor?
Right. Okay, so I know an electrical engineer and regular engineer, and they are gritty. Okay, like not gritty people, but when they're on the job,
yeah,
they are tough.
You gotta get in there.
You gotta get in there, and you're using your hands constantly. So it's a little strange to me. That doesn't really line up. If Carl didn't really look like he had his hands dirty a lot, or didn't have to use his hands very much, like calluses or roughness, or maybe even, like sometimes people who use their hands a lot, their fingerprints start to wear off in some areas. I would expect all of that. Or even maybe some cuts or some scars or something. I don't know, like an engineer maybe on a boat or something would have more of those. I don't know if an electrical engineer would have that many rough qualities, but they're still doing a lot of stuff. And if it looks like he was more like, not doing that kind of stuff, then that is a problem.
Yeah. I memean, really, even if this is the guy, if this is for sure the man who was found on the beach that day, like there are a lot of open questions still. Like this is not like a satisfactory conclusion, like done and dusted. This confuses me a little bit.
Right. Me too. With Dorothy Jean, his ex-wife, why did he leave? I mean, if he was not really feeling the marriage and he wasn't very nice, then I mean that's not cool, but it's somewhat normal, right?
Yeah.
But why did he just disappear and not come back for years? And what keeps popping up back in my head is Jessica.
Yeah.
Because why did she seem very uncomfortable when she saw the plaster of his face, right? When she saw was it a photo or the plaster that she saw?
She saw the plaster bust.
Right. So why did she seem very uncomfortable? And
yeah, her reaction was wild.
Almost like she's seen a ghost. Why would anyone have that reaction if they didn't know who that person was? So it leads me to think, okay, why was Carl or Charles, they called him Charles, even though his real name was Carl. Like, why was Charles in that part of Australia where Jessica was, which apparently wasn't too far off from where his ex-wife Dorothy Jean was living? She moved.
Right.
So was he coming into that part of town looking for Dorothy, why did he disappear altogether? Did he get taken away to be a so-called spy? Or did he get enlisted or get into some sort of trouble? Maybe he saw something he wasn't supposed to see. And maybe, okay, this is just my theory, by the way. I'm just deep diving. Maybe after all was said and done, he was trying to find Dorothy and was like, hey, I'm sorry I disappeared. And he wanted to tell her everything. But then maybe Jessica was a spy after all, or she had some sort of insider knowledge, and she was asked to take him out before he can open his mouth and like spill all this information to Dorothy. You know, maybe his scorned lover who he really did love deep down inside, maybe Dorothy was all he had. But, you know, that's also me just grasping at straws. Like there's really, I'm just creating a story out of nothing really, but.
Yeah, it's easy to kind of craft these narratives.
Right.
But as we said before, it's not easy to fit all of the different aspects into one narrative necessarily.
Right. That's what's so frustrating about this case is even though now that we know it's Carl Charles Webb, and we know a little more, allegedly, and we know more about his background and all that, it still leaves this unbelievable amount of questions wide open. If anything, I'm more confused now, which is, you wouldn't think that, right? But
yeah,
it just doesn't make sense.
See, the first thing that kind of comes to my mind when I just hear this basic information about Charles is I feel like a suicide situation is not off the table, you know, and that was always a theory, though a lot of the times it was like kind of I can't handle not being loved by Jessica anymore related suicide. But the thing is this Carl fellow, he had a brother-in-law and a nephew die during World War II, as well as his parents dying all within like 7 years. That's a lot. And, you know, Doff saying this stuff about him and the divorce thing about him, like refusing to speak to her and like being sullen and all this stuff. To me, that sounds like unprocessed grief, you know, and like I'm someone who for a long time had a lot of unprocessed grief, and I was very disconnected from my emotions, and it would cause me to, I don't know, relate to people in strange ways, or they probably seem strange to the people. And something that's interesting about, if we go back to the T. Keen, which is where we got the name Treasure from, T. Keen was found written on some of the clothing and on a laundry bag in that suitcase. And they could have been from his brother-in-law named Jack Keen. Jack Keen also did have a father named Gerald Thomas Keen, so it could be a J or a T, but it makes sense to me, potentially it being J. Keen's belongings, because Jack Keen died in World War II. He was a pilot and he was in a tragic accident. So it would make sense to me if he was really close with Carl/Charles wanting to maybe have some of these items, either to use as hand-me-downs or just to have as sentimental objects. So if you know, he's kind of spiraling, if he's dealing with all of these emotions from all this loss, if he's spiraling, if he is dipping out on his wife and just like carrying the belongings of somebody who meant a lot to him who isn't here anymore, like this could have been the end of a really dark time for a person who was going through a lot. That makes sense to me.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But then what about the fucking book, Chloe? What the fuck?
And what about Jessica?
And Tamam should, dude. What the I mean, I guess that could be a suicide thing. The end.
Maybe I don't know, maybe he just found the book somewhere and he was like, yeah, this, you know, and he related to that quote and he ripped it out. And I don't know. Yeah. I know that there were weird scribblings in that book, but do we have any evidence that that was him?
I guess not necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily.
That could have been there before.
Where the fuck did he get the book? Because it's like the book is where Jessica comes in, right? Like Jessica's phone number's in the book.
Oh, right.
So either that was Carl and she is related, or if he just found the book or got it from somebody else. I don't know. It's still confusing.
So in other words, we're exactly where we were before. We just have a name and a few alleged details, but we wanted to give you guys an update. I'm glad that we caught this before the episode went out so we could put it on one package, but really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Well, not really cool. I mean, very interesting. Anyone dying is not cool.
Very interesting.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
I
mean, we all have to do it eventually.
Yeah, but very interesting, and we'll keep checking for the rest of our lives for sure.
Yep. Clearly, I wasn't on top of ciphermysteries.com because I totally missed this happening. We've probably been too involved in our other episodes.
Yeah, there were many other episodes we were focusing on. And to be fair, this came out like 3 weeks after we recorded this.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't expect it to happen.
I was over reading about the Somerton Man.
It's like, okay, I'll check in like 6 months or something.
Exactly.
Right. It's like you wouldn't expect it to come 3 weeks later. I found it on accident. I don't even know why I was looking it up. I just did.
Bless.
Yeah, bless. So,
but yeah, if you guys want to keep tabs as well, I definitely recommend checking out ciphermysteries.com. He's not paying me to promote his blog.
We are not a sponsor.
Anytime he gets like a small piece of information, it's there. Like he does some crazy digging, so you can get kind of live updates. The comments are a little wild, but you get some interesting information there too. And Chloe, I wanted to show you very quickly.
Oh, okay.
And I'll put this in the show description as well. It's very possible that one of these men in this photo is Carl Webb. It's very possible because Carl Webb went to Swinburne Technical College for probably 2 years, and he played football. And in a yearbook or something, some sort of archive, there's a picture of the football team, and C. Webb is listed. Unfortunately, the names are not listed in order of like where they're sitting. So all we know is one of these men might be Carl as a young man.
Oh, wow.
Right? It could be this guy.
You know, yeah, my eyes went straight to him.
It could be, probably not you. It could be this guy.
Or it could be the one right below him.
Oh, that, yeah.
That kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got the ears.
Yeah, it's the ears.
Interesting.
Guys, we'll post this photo in our Facebook and Instagram.
If you're watching on YouTube, it'll just be on the screen now. So check it out.
I've been starting to listen to our podcast on YouTube because it's fun because all the pictures pop up, and it's just nice to eat dinner and just have it pop up there. But that is really cool. Where did you find that?
Ciphermysteries.com, dude.
Ciphermysteries.
I'm telling you. He does the work. He does the fucking work.
This guy
dude.
is our hero. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cipher Mysteries.
Thank you, Nick. That's all we got. I guess we'll say bye again.
And thanks, guys. See you in the next one.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Love you.
Love you so much. Bye.
Bye.